All right, family. God bless you. It's the time you've been waiting for. Sing to Talk with Claire Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. Well, let me tell you, Justice on Trial is coming to Chicago. Our special guest is Chad Lawson Cooper. He's going to bring you the information. We're going to show you a little demo about the premiere of that you should view. Let me tell you, mindful. This was previously a movie. Now it's coming to the stage, and you don't want to miss it. Everyone, stay tuned. Sing Talk is live. We'll be right back after this message. All right, family. God bless you. Welcome to Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard. It's a beautiful day, and we hope that you can remember the words that I always say to my listening audience, TGIT. Thank God it is today. Well, I am so excited because Justice on Trial is coming to Chicago in September, and you do not want to miss it. Let me tell you, it could be no more impactful than the world that we're living in at this time. But I'm not going to take up any more time. I am proud to bring a HBCU alumni.
You better know it, right?
A&M. Well, I'm a proud alumni of Southern University A&M College. Let me tell you. So we're excited about that. This gentleman, That's right. That's right. Let me say, Mr. Cooper has a beautiful company called the Chad Cooper Company on Broadway.com. So we got a lot of ground to cover, but we're going to make it impactful for all of you. If you're tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope and Twitter, we appreciate you. But everyone, welcome to Senior Talk. My brother now, Mr. Chad Lawson Cooper. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you this beautiful day?
Thank you. I am doing wonderful and honored to be on this Zoom or this interview with you because I understand you are a superstar.
We're just doing our assignment at this time. You know what I mean? We're just doing our assignment.
I love it. But you know what? When it's in you, you're going to shine anywhere and everywhere you go.
Yes, indeed. So if you would, let's talk about, your career history. You've been a part of a lot of iconic gospel stars, featured in national publications. And just tell us a little bit, introduce us to who you are, and then we'll get more into Justice on Trial.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I am a ordained minister. I started preaching when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Florida, North Florida, and then we moved to Miami. And always kind of had an entertainment leg to me in terms of started playing and singing when I was 5. And then, of course, I ended up, I'm going to give you the short version, ended up going to FAMU, meeting my wife, Alicia Robinson Cooper, who at the time, I was not in the gospel choir. She was, and she was one of the FAMU stars of the gospel choir, and we ended up hooking up and getting married.
All right.
Yeah, and started pastoring at that time, and I pastored for about 8 years, and the Lord spoke to me in Miami as we were at a Michael Basin play, Men Cry in the Dark, and the Lord had been dealing with me about changing the trajectory of my ministry. And in that play, he spoke to me as I was sitting in the audience and said, you're going to do plays and movies, and you're going to travel the country, and you have to shift your ministry from the traditional pastorate and be able to allow me to use you in the way I want to use you. And so I gave up an established church, a ministerial staff, all of the fixings and trimmings that come with that.
Yeah.
And started over and just, walked by faith. And we started with our first play entitled Church Mess. And that play took us over 150 cities. It's so much that happened in the trajectory of that I could share from, obeying God and the mistakes that I made not knowing this business, and going in as a novice, but not giving up.
Mhm.
There's something to be said. If God tells you something, many a time, Sister Hubbard, He will call us before He qualifies us, and
If
He
you don't,
qualifies.
I'm about to, okay, let me not run on this office here. Okay, let's speak on that because we have some time. Let's be very clear. Um, I want you to speak on accepting the new trajectory for the new journey for you, because that's where I am in my personal, having developed my show for over 10 years. But now I see a new dynamic, I see a wider vision, and now I must do the work. Do I fight? Do I kick? Do I say, Lord Jesus, are you real? He said, I asked you to do it.
Yeah.
I gave you the tool. So how do we go into accepting that, knowing,
Well, here's the thing. And many a time, God calls us to do things that we've never done before because it's already in us and we just
yeah,
don't know it. I call it uncommon gifts that He brings out of us, a hidden gifts that we didn't know was in us. He called Noah to build an ark. Noah was
mm,
no architect or ship builder, but he
right.
built it. He he
Mm,
he called Gideon to be a mighty warrior, but he was a frail guy that felt like he couldn't do it. But God called him on the wine press and said, "You can do this. I'm with you." And if God be for you, Sister Hubbard, who can be against you?
that's
And
right.
there are things that God has placed in you, and God is. See, here's the difference, and I preach this all the time. We don't even have to be the best to be the greatest.
Tell the truth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got that one. Yeah.
All we have to do is to be willing. And it's really, Paul said, it's not I, but the Christ that lives within me that
Mm-hmm.
enables me to do these things. So God is all before the foundation of the world was framed. He had already downloaded that data, that talent, that anointing that's in
Yeah.
you to do everything that God has called you to do. And nobody can keep you or I in a box. I preached a sermon some years ago. It's more to me than what you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of times people will try to label you as just that one thing, but there's a multiplicity of things. And I can just see that prophetically that God has called you to do. And here's the thing, you're not going to die full, you're going to die empty. So the greatest thing in doing what you and I have been called to do is obeying God. And
Yeah.
see, when we obey God, He takes up the rest. Listen, Moses went around a mountain for 40 years because God kept saying, "Now I took you to the promise, close enough to see it. I've let spies there bring back fruit for you to taste it." And every time you get to this juncture in Jordan, you keep going around because you don't see a road. Here
Mm-hmm.
is the key thing. When he died, God told Joshua, said, Moses is dead. In 3 days, you're going to cross over. At the same place, the same point at Jordan, Joshua sees this place to cross over, but he sees no road and he just steps on in the water. Sometimes you have to step in when you don't see a road because God already has the stones, the stepping stones underneath what we cannot see to
Yeah.
upgird you. And while people think that you're stepping on nothing, you're stepping on God's hand and He's carrying you through this whole thing.
Amen. And one of the things I tell my friends and colleagues sometimes we're just gathering, I said, it's like what you're waiting on, God is waiting for you to step on what He's gave you.
That's
We
right.
waiting, and like I tell people, I don't meet about the next meeting because I got stuff to do.
That's right.
And so everyone has a life assignment. And so let's talk about the Chad Cooper Company on Broadway. You have covered a lot of ground. I have watched excerpts. I've been on your YouTube channel. Um, I am so just honored that you are bringing this in this visual to our community. And you're not doing it in a small feat. You got some major people a part of this company with you. So tell us about the Chad Cooper Company on Broadway.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. The Chad Cooper Company on Broadway came about in a juncture where I was ready to give up. I was ready to give up entertainment. I said, "Can I go get a job like everybody else?" And it came at a time where my wife and I, for a moment, had separated, and it seemed like I was losing everything. And I heard God say in the midst of it, "Move to New York." Moved to New York, and we were at that time we were based out of Atlanta, and she moved to DC. And God said to me, He said, "Move to New York. It's been your destiny to be in New York all of your life, and it's bigger than I know it's a big city, can be intimidating because I had done a show in New York a couple of years before then, and I said I'd never go back to New York and not to visit."
Right.
And God said to me, He said, "Move to New York." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I moved to New York when I was
Mm.
homeless, stayed in my car for a few weeks. I met a preacher at a service that allowed me to sublease a studio apartment from him. I literally had no money, and God said to me, "Start promoting a show." I had not even wrote Justice on Trial yet.
Yeah.
I was touring with Family Mess, and I had toured in months. And He said, "Just you go, and I'll have the people come and see you." And I started just working Brooklyn, one of the boroughs that I thought I would never even visit. And and with that show, Woman of God, I ended up selling out. I think in about a month, about 1,200 seats, and where I had nothing. I had made like 60 grand, and God said, "I'm with you in this. Now keep reinventing and keep reinvesting." And then He said, "Now go open up your office on Broadway." I said, on Broadway.
Wow.
And I kept going, kept going. And I was in a service I'm sorry, in 2016. And this preacher didn't know me from Adam to Apple. And at the time, and we were only separated for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this because people need to understand, and I say this prophetically, things that you're meant to be with and be a part, the enemy will come in and try to cause separation. But if God be for you, who can be against you?
Yeah.
He began to prophesy to me, not knowing me at all. And he said, "Man of God, I see where you have been traveling up and down the road several times, and you've had car trouble, but God has always allowed you to have that trouble at a rest area." And then he went from there. He said, "I see the ministry in you, but I see the $30 million, the $40 million, $60 million contracts." And I'm like listening to him, like, well, maybe he Googled me and then coming up with that, to tell me that to make me feel good. But this is how I knew it was God. He said, "But I also see where the enemy is trying to separate you and your wife and your family." But he said it won't work. He said, "God's putting you back together again. You've not written your best play, your best movie, sang your best song, preach your best message." He said it hadn't even been done yet, but it's coming. And let me
Mm.
tell you, after then, that's when that was the inception of Justice on Trial. And when I came out with Justice on Trial, it took me about 8 months to write it. And it was during the time that Philando Castile was murdered.
Okay.
And that's what inspired it. And I said, "God, what can I do?" He said, "Use your gift as a writer, as a thespian, as a producer, as a filmmaker, and do this." And when that came out off Broadway, it was sold out, and it just kept selling out off Broadway in New York. And God kept blessing and blessing and blessing, and then it turned into a movie, and then I became a movie producer. I'm trying to speed through this because I don't want
We
to
got time.
bore you.
We in good shape. We in good shape.
And so all of these things, were happening, and so God turned things around for me tremendously just by operating in obedience. And so here I am now, 5 years or going on 6 years later, here in the Big Apple, doing movies, I wasn't gonna do no more plays, but it just so happened that I talked to Harry Lennox, one of my partners, and we said, well, let's kind of revisit that, and so that's how Chicago is our first city with this play because it's so very important. It's an important piece, and it
Yes.
deals with the African diaspora. Two civil rights attorneys suing the U.S. Justice Department for reparations and damages done to African Americans, where we bring back time traveler witnesses like Harriet Tubman, Medgar Evers, and Emmett Till into a modern day courtroom, a mixed jury, black, white, and Hispanic, and they tell their stories like only they can. And then when they deliberate those facts all the way up until George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. So it's
Yes.
very relevant. And I'm excited about coming to Chicago with this.
Well, we ready for you. So let's do this. Let's show everyone a trailer, not giving out the
Awesome.
full information, but everyone stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message.
Producer Chad Lawson Cooper brings justice on trial. Black Lives Matter to the play from Broadway, starring Alicia Robinson Cooper, lead singer for John P. Key and VIP Mass Choir. There's not a play on the planet like Justice on Trial. This production is about two civil rights attorneys through in the U.S. Justice Department for reparations for African Americans bringing back time. Traveler witnesses such as Harriet Tubman, Medgar Evers, and Emmett Till. The Chad Cooper Company on Broadway is bringing Chad Lawson Cooper's hit off-Broadway play to the following cities: Chicago, Jacksonville, Louisville, and Chattanooga. Get ready for Justice on Trial. It's educational, motivational, and inspirational.
So
Yeah.
I want you to break down why you chose those three initial persons to bring into to a current state, i.e. Emmett Till.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, Emmett Till to me represented Philando Castile,
Mm-hmm.
decades ago. And as I was in Cracker Barrel when I heard the news about Philando Castile. And I was the only Black person, I think, that was in there. And I was in DC at the time, working on a show. And when it came across my phone, it brought tears to my eyes. I sat there and cried. And that's when God gave me the whole concept. And those are the witnesses that came to mind. And Emmett Till represented Philando Castile as a person that was brutally attacked for no reason at all, just because he was Black, and he never got justice. And I felt that this was a way of bringing more attention to his story that never got the justice that I felt, or I feel that it deserved. And I mean, I get George Floyd. I know his aunt, some of his family, they're beautiful people. And what was done to him was just tragic and wrong. But what was done to Emmett Till decades later was something that we've never heard before. I don't even know of anybody that's been brutally attacked like that, a 13-year-old child.
Yes.
And so he represents Ahmaud Arbery. He represents all of those. So he is the face of that. Harriet Tubman represented to me the reparations piece of slavery, taking it upon herself to free her people, because slavery was wrong, and it was not just the free labor, but it was the injustice and mistreatment of the slaves as if they were animals of some sort. And on this journey, little did I know that my doctor, who lives in Tallahassee, where FAMU is Harriet Tubman's great nephew. She raised his grandmother.
My goodness.
Isn't it? And they're all the descendants are mostly medical doctors. Medgar Evers represented also a key component to reparations as a martyr, the first NAACP official to be murdered, assassinated. But he dealt with generational wealth in trying to bring our community, the African diaspora, into a space of generational wealth and coherency, to understand that we are superpower by ourselves. And he preached that, and I felt that in terms of talking about the finances within the African American diaspora, he was a key component. And the truth of the matter is, 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow law um, has really put us in an oppressed state. And these are not allegations; these are facts.
Yeah,
And
right, real
and
talk.
the,
Yeah.
and yeah, and the reason that there are so many um, crimes within the Black community is because of poverty. When truth be told, when people have money, they don't have a reason to be is disgruntled and upset and mad. And you got our wealthy counterparts. They can walk around. Hello, how are you?
Right,
Great day,
right.
top of the morning, because they don't have to worry about how they're gonna eat, pay their bills, and many of them have inherited that from generational wealth that just keeps on coming from our ancestors.
So in writing the play, and then just as you mentioned, just so many current activities. I mean, we just recently celebrated would have been the 80th birthday of Emmett Till.
Yes.
And I really don't want to go into a non-hopeful environment in my thoughts, but have we really made any strides since that time? Because our communication, we're still lacking the communication between the citizens of the community and our police department, and so there's so much in disengagement in our communities where we need to have a collective, and one doesn't want to hear the other. One feels, oh, I'm better than you. And we all really, if we just could just manage the thoughts that, have we really made any steps
Yeah.
since Emmett Till, years, decades ago, having interviewed his family, and they're still crying to this day and in mourning
Yeah.
of how tragic that was physically, as you mentioned, for his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, to have her son's body viewed that way.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. And when you see it in the play and in the movie, it brings tears to your eyes.
Yes,
It
yes.
it there's a scene in the play, um, and some of it's in the movie, but in the play it's more exaggerated when he comes out to testify, and his
Mm,
mother sees him beat up like that, and she
mm.
screams. It's one of the most. I've really noticed it when we did Los Angeles. It was just such a dramatic show. The mother came from the back and he walked out, and she hollered like only a mother can holler if they see their children in despair like that. And
Yeah.
he sings his song to her, "Mama, I didn't mean to hurt you, but I'm okay. I couldn't stay.
Wow.
God knew the day that my young life would be over." And
Woo.
she's dancing while he's singing that to her and crying and weeping. And it represents all of those mothers that the sons and daughters were killed. It's without a cause. Sandra Bland, I believe, is in Chicago, and she's even mentioned in the play in the jury deliberation. We
Yeah.
cover a whole gamut.
Woo. Let me say this. I have seen some excerpts from YouTube, and one specifically was the jury deliberation
Yes,
from the movie.
yes,
I think that is just how in depth it was, and have diverse audience in that room, in that jury room. You know what I'm saying? In that deliberating space,
yeah,
that
yes.
diverse group, because everybody got to be represented.
That's right.
So you broke it down. I wanted to share it, but I wanted people to, I didn't want to give up too much, because we have to take the time to come to 8PC Morgan Park on Saturday, September the 25th. Let me tell you, if
Yes.
you want to get your tickets, I got the information scrolling now. Please go to the Chad Cooper Company on Broadway.com. If you put in a ticket code, which is C Coop, 2021, you'll receive a discount. If you're someone viewing or watching who would like to support the efforts, we want to try to get at least 100 seniors to the event, and you would like to do that, please call Senior Talk Media. Our office is 312-428-6919, or contact the Chad Cooper Company on Broadway. Woo,
Absolutely.
I'm all in. For some reason, my chest, I'm on.
Guess what? You know, Harry Lennox is a business partner of mine. We have a company in addition to the Chad Cooper Company called Great Faith Entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's a company where we're producing movies and films that primarily, have a Christian foundation to it. But we're trying to sow into other arenas. And one of his visions is the Lillian Marcy Center, which is on the south side of Chicago. It's about a $20 million project that it's his heart desire is to see that state of the art theater go up so that it can educate and be a place of resource for young African American children on the south side of Chicago that they've never seen before.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the healing powers that we can really do. If just a little bit of exposure, children, unfortunately, we are living through the pandemic. We're still wearing our masks, but we're also being mindful too, that if children, our youth are so invaluable, they are so valuable, and we need to pour into them. A lot of them have talents. They're putting all this on social media. They're doing graphics and podcasting and all this, but there's a talent in them that could be well worth a career.
Exactly. And that's why people like yourself are so important in the community as trendsetters and examples. And people, you're not just talking the talk. You walking the walk. You walking the walk from Illinois to Indiana.
Yes, I am. Quite often.
And you're making a sound across the country. And which brings me to my next thing. We're honoring community leaders that have contributed to the community of Chicago and surrounding areas, because if there were not people like yourself, it would be a terrible place in life if we did not have people that says, listen, I'm it's not about me, it's about the people, it's about the next generation. And so unselfishly you give of yourselves and you stand in the gap for the next generation. So we'll be saluting you and a few others on that night, and just want to thank you for what you've done, and not even forgetting about the seniors. That's such an important part of our community.
Oh, wow. Well, let me say, I accepted this assignment 10 years ago.
Wow.
Literally coming from an experience of being laid off and working in in-home care. And so I just knew that I had a passion for older Americans, as I call people getting better with age.
That's right.
We still celebrate older Americans who are 100 years old in the month of May. And we living longer. Let's be very clear.
That's true.
And we're looking good, and we're having social interaction, and we're meeting people. And our older Americans, we're going to talk off the camp, because I may have another play for you. I'm just joking.
All right.
But it's just that older Americans have been misrepresented in our country.
Yes.
And they are the root of our communities.
Well, go ahead. I was just going
to no. That was just my statement.
Yeah, I was just going to put a little scripture in there. It says that he calls the old because they know the way, and the young because they're able. You can have ability and not know the way and make so many mistakes when these older people are resources.
Yeah,
they can tell you, don't do this, don't do that. Learn by my example. And so I would always love, even as a child, to just go sit and talk with older people. I guess that's why I'm so old now.
That makes two of them. But you know what? The gift is that older Americans, they have to be a part of, and that's what my fight is, or my mission visibly every time I'm on the air, is that it's not so that I'm on podcasts, but that I can be impactful. So we work to make sure that now that some of us are still in our senior buildings, that they can watch this as their platform in their community rooms and ask the questions or call our office. And we never tell seniors no. We just say, if we don't have the answer, let's find it together. Because I bet you somebody else is looking for that answer. So let me tell everyone, we are so excited. Ooh, this was a phenomenal interview. I thank you, the Honorable Reverend Chad Lawson Cooper. You busy. But you're on purpose.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're on purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep everyone informed. We're going to be replaying this in a local market near you. Check us out on Senior Talk Media on Spotify, Amazon Music, and TuneIn. Boom! We got a lot of ground to cover.
That's right.
Everyone, join us on September the 25th. You don't want to miss it. Go to Senior Talk Media, click on the events, and you'll see all the details. Don't forget, if you have a community, if you're a community partner and would like to purchase tickets to support at least 100 minimum of seniors to come to this event, we would love to talk to you personally. So, what's your closing remark for us today?
Well, I want to say that my dad, he's a retired Supreme Court justice out of Connecticut. He's coming all the way to be here and to help present. So I'm happy he's going to present the awards to the honorees, and I'm just over the moon about that. Harriet Tubman is played by my wife, who's one of John P. Key's lead singers, who is an amazing soprano out of this world. If you have the Lily in the Valley CD, she's my rock on that CD.
All right.
She's crazy talented, crazy talented. And then you got Alan Connolly, who is a Chicagoan. He's playing one of the civil rights attorneys. And then Cassandra Bale, who is Cassandra toured.
We lost your audio. I need you to come back. I can't hear you. We're still here, everybody. So, well, I think what he was also mentioning was Cassandra Bale Studios. Cassandra Bale is a bad chick. Let me tell you, she's a bad chick, and she's a friend of Senior Talk. She made our connection today. And are you there, brother?
Can you hear me now?
All right, I can hear you now. I was just mentioning the Cassandra Bale. We love her. She was awesome to make our introduction a few weeks ago. She is a playwright in herself and a movie producer, and so you got you got a tight team together. So as I mentioned, what will be your closing remark at this time?
Come get your tickets. Come on out and support this production, this off-Broadway production that is it's quality work. It's great work, and it's something that's going to uplift the community, and it's also putting some money back into the community of Chicago. And but it's a timepiece production that you'll just enjoy.
All right. So everyone, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for letting us be a part of your day. I am Clara Hubbard, host of Senior Talk Media.
Thank you, beautiful.
My pleasure. Also known as the granddaughter in the community. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely.